Hello everyone, it's Sylvia from Fairlight Tarot. Welcome to my channel. Today we're going to have a look at all of the decks that I've used in my practice for my channel and for my membership in the month of April. So April has been a really busy month because I have started my membership back in December. But I feel like, especially for the Starlight here, we've come to at the end of the month of March, and that was the end of all of the introduction videos. And then I started creating a more articulate kind of journey, and together with prompts for journaling and meditation. And I feel like it's finally found a really good format. And so what happened was that I was really happy to go through all of these things together with my Starlight members. And we're literally just doing the same kind of journey. And I have articulated that through different milestones. So what I used as decks, for example, you can see a bit of here, but it was very interesting because I found myself reaching out for the Star Seeker Oracle, the Self-Love Tarot, and especially because it came new to my collection in the month of April, and it has been in my wish list forever, the Creative Consciousness Healing Oracle deck, which is a bit of a mouthful, by Johanna Wright. This deck has been so helpful that I'm contemplating the possibility to keep it on my desk, because even after the work that I've done for the milestone 1, 2, and 3 for my healing step-by-step videos, I've actually enjoyed using this so much that I really want to see whether it's possible for me to find a place for it in my daily practice as well. But just to show you a couple of cards, obviously. So I have talked about this deck already a few times in my channel, especially when talking about the healing step-by-step journey that we're all doing. But it is one of those decks that I feel the more we look at it, the better we understand it, and also the more we actually get from it. And I have to say, it's a pity that the guidebook is not colored, although it's not a big deal. It's just that the colors of the cards are so very nice, and there's this sense of calm that comes from this color palette. Now, I mentioned a couple of times that this is one of those decks that I don't use. It's an oracle deck, but I don't use it in combination with the tarot deck for divination. I don't think that I'm pretty sure that someone can use it for divination, and if you do, please let me know in the comments below, because I'm always after new ways to use my decks. But this is the typical deck that you pull one card of it, and you kind of do your meditation work and your healing work and your journaling if you want to. But it's one of those decks that really have a specific place in my practice. And so we've seen it a few times, so I'm not gonna go through card by card, because you can watch the video that I posted a couple of days ago on, I was debating whether it's true and it's reasonable to believe that we can actually heal with the use of tarot. And that was a bit of a rhetorical question, because of course I do believe that we can, or at least a certain type of wound or inner child wound can be healed through tarot. Tarot is not let's say it's a tool to reach that. So that's your goal, healing, and tarot can help you reach your goal. However, there is so much more that goes into that, and the way in which we use tarot and oracles in our healing journey. I absolutely love this deck because let me just show you, because I always believe that it's a lot easier to show rather than to tell something, and so you can actually have an example. So let me just quickly shuffle the deck. It's one of those really big ones that I can only shuffle this way, overhand, but it's fine because, as I said, I'm only going to pick one card, so it's not necessarily I'm not necessarily looking for combination of the cards. So let's pick this one card. Okay, receiving. This is the second time that I pull, not from this deck, but today I was doing what I was doing. Oh yeah, I was doing my deck and like preparation for my deck and Walk Taurus 2, and which I'm doing with my Sunlight and Starlight members as well. And we do very specific spreads for every decan related to a movie. So I find it really funny because it's not just something we're studying, but we're actually having some fun. And we can even watch that movie, for example. But I already got the card that says receive, not receiving, but receive, but it's more or less the same. So let's have a look at this one. It says receiving, opening self to worthiness. And you can already see how this kind of deck really facilitate healing that kind of wound that we can have, that we can, when we went through something difficult in our formative years, and those things, of course, they take a toll on how we live our lives. And sometimes we find ourselves repeating a set of patterns that don't necessarily lead us anywhere. And yet we are unable to stop, we are unable to step away from that repetition. And it kind of becomes some kind of a cage, which is, on the one hand, it has been, it stems from events and circumstances we've been through. But on the other hand, in our adult life, it's also the way in which we continue to go down the same road makes it so that it is a cage of our own making. It doesn't mean that it's any easier to get out of it, trust me. And that's what we're trying to do with our members. And these are fantastic cards to just prompt you to look at things in a different way, because it's always a matter of changing perspective. So this is card number 38. And I'm just going to read out of the booklet, which I believe is actually very nice. Even though, as I said earlier, it's not in color, but it's fine. So opening self to worthiness. And it says here, the key concepts are allowing, receiving, gentleness with self. You don't have to be all the way healed to receive all of the good things that you desire. That is an incredibly important thing to understand. So we tend to think that tomorrow will bring the gifts. However, that mindset is never helping, because by putting into the future something that we can actually do today means always finding some kind of an excuse. And not to say that I don't want to make anyone responsible for what happened to them. However, by convincing ourselves that we're still not there yet, that is the worst you could possibly do. I do believe that what he says here is perfectly true. So we don't need to be a whole. We don't need to feel 100% in order to be able to already feel the benefits of the healing that we're doing. Love, acceptance, satisfaction, abundance, all of those feelings are available to you now. No matter where you are in your journey, this card comes to you with the message that it is okay to receive. You may have beliefs that receiving is selfish or would make you too powerful. It's okay to embrace all of yourself and allow the part of you that's willing to receive to be a part of your world. I absolutely love cards like this. I wasn't expecting this card, but again, it is the second time that I actually pull a receiving card today. And it's funny because I've actually had a lot to think about in the last couple of weeks, where because of events that were out of my control, I had to impose myself to take a step back and just relinquish that kind of control and let things unfold as they will, because there was absolutely nothing that I could do. However, receiving has been incredibly important because of the meaningful connections that even this channel lets me have and allows me to create. So I absolutely love this deck. I highly recommend it. Even if you're not one of my members, just have a look at this deck, because if you are on a journey to heal that inner child wound, this can actually be very helpful. And it is a mass market deck, and it's very, very affordable. And as always, I'm gonna make sure to put the the link to this deck in the description box below, just in case you want to check it out for yourself or you want to purchase it. So that was the part that was related to my healing step-by-step videos, but we got so much more to look at. And so I just wanted to show you the two decks that I was using also for this part of my practice, the Starseeker Oracle, which is a companion to the Starseeker Tarot, but I actually used it with the Self-Love Tarot. So let's have a look at how they pair up together, because I really wanted to get out of my comfort zone this month, the month of April. And so I was telling myself, if I always pick the safe option, you know, the obvious option, like obviously pairing up the Starseeker Oracle with the Starseeker Tarot would have been the safe option. I thought, you know, you're responsible for things not changing and the outcomes being always the same. So if I actually risk a little and dare a little and try and actually find, you know, a different combination that might be healing, for example, then, you know, I will know the next time, I will know that I actually feel okay to pair these two together. And it will give me an additional, on the one hand, an additional way to use these decks, but also on the other, an additional layer of information about how to read the cards or about how to look and use the Oracle deck. So as you can see, there's a lot of communication between. By the way, I'm so sorry. I should have warned you, there is nudity in the Self-Love Tarot. However, it is a stylized kind of nudity. It is not an aggressive kind of nudity, and it's hopefully not offensive. If you are offended by nudity, I apologize. Please skip ahead. However, I kindly ask you to perhaps give it a try, because this Self-Love Tarot is extremely compassionate, and it really teaches us to look at our bodies for what they are. We are human beings. We are not perfect. We are not meant to be perfect. So that I should have said this before start flipping the cards, but you know, sometimes it just so happens that I forget. So we have this kind of conversation going on between these two. And it's really beautiful because on the one hand, the color palettes are very similar, but they also have a kind of a similar art style and a similar medium, you know, of, for example, I imagine there's a little bit of watercolor in both of these decks, even though the Starseeker Oracle sometimes feels like it's a collage deck. And so, as I was saying, there is so much compassion coming out of these cards. And it's actually healing to just use them together, just, you know, flipping the cards, reading the keywords on the oracle, try and find the meaning through the tarot cards, and basically just letting yourself go and listen to what the message is. And sometimes we don't necessarily have to understand it completely, or maybe we don't understand it immediately, and it takes a little bit of time, but that's okay too, because these two decks are so compassionate, so kind, so forgiving and accepting, that you don't feel the rush, you don't feel the anxiety or the stage performance in being able to live the moment and make everything, you know, make the best out of it. Sometimes that is a wonderful trait of our culture, inciting people to make the best out of every moment. But sometimes it can actually create anxiety, and it can actually make us feel almost as if we were here just to burn through every single moment in our life, and it does create anguish. So what we need to do in that case is just not be afraid to take a step back or take a break or even change our perspective and our point of view in order to be able to release that kind of burden that we are taking up on our shoulders. I'm sure you've seen it so far. It is fantastic. The conversation these two are having is just absolutely wonderful. But let's move on and have a look at different other decks. Another couple of decks that came into my collection in the month of April were the Narrative Alchemy Tarot by Chrissy Bentley, which I ordered out of Make Playing Cards, and the Tarot de Sainte Croix by Lisa de Sainte Croix, which I actually got from one of my members in exchange for the Serpent Fire Tarot 7th edition, which I finally convinced myself to relinquish, to to give to a new lovely home in order for someone else to enjoy it, because I just wasn't resonating with it. I'm so very happy that I was able to do this trade, because the Tarot de Sainte Croix had been in my wish list for a while, and I did get the first, I think, edition of it, with the one with the orange borders, but I just couldn't really resonate. I couldn't vibe with the border version, and I know that it is probably more valuable now because it is a first edition. But at the same time, I think that this one, because it's borderless, actually makes me appreciate the images even more and has a more direct kind of access, for me at least, to the meanings of the cards. Now, I really want to say, so this one is the Narrative Alchemy Tarot, and it is a tarot deck. However, because of its very specific kind of setup with, the different colors related to the chakras, and also there's a large font keyword on the top of the card, and then we just look at the right bottom to the numbers referring to the suit as well. So in this case, for example, this is referring to number 0 in the major arcana, so this card is the Fool card, and the keyword associated with the Fool card is curiosity. If we go ahead, for example, we see the 10 of fire, so obviously 10 of wands, let's say, and in this case the keyword is the word acknowledgement. When we look at the 4 of fire, we look at celebration because it's the 4 of wands and it reminds us of the union. For example, this is the king of earth. So obviously Chrissy keeps on the numeration, so it went from number 10 to number 11 for the pages, number 12 for the knights, number 13 for the queens, and number 14 for the kings. So the 14 with this alchemical element is the king of earth, or the king of coins. And the keyword is ease. What happens is that sometimes I actually prefer to use this as an oracle deck, and I'm just going to show you how these two actually pair up really well together once we treat the narrative alchemy as an oracle deck. So we just do it the traditional way by putting the, I choose to use the Tarot de Sainte Croix as the tarot in this case, and I'm just going to put the the split decks by the side of the oracle. And then we're just going to focus on the keywords as expressed by the narrative alchemy, maturation between the King of Swords and the Magician, for example. Definitely, the Magician does have that kind of itinerary or journey, because when it starts, the Magician is, if we're looking at the clusters and constellation, which is something that I'm also doing with my members in the Read Like a Pro course, we're actually looking at clusters and constellation of the major arcanas, and the Magician starts as the individualist, the prototype or the archetype for the individualist. It is thanks to the clusters and the acknowledgement of the Wheel of Fortune, for example, that it becomes more of a looking outside of its own perspective. And so the maturation that we see out of the Magician brings it to be the expert, such as the King of Swords. And discernment between the Queen of Swords and the Page of Wands, absolutely. I mean, the Queen of Swords is nothing but discernment in many, many cases. Sorry, I didn't really shuffle this one that well because... Okay, that's better. And so we see also inertia between the Empress and the Ten of Swords. Definitely the Ten of Swords calls for this kind of stop, with this kind of stopping the movement, basically. Rumination between the Emperor and the Three of Pentacles. And ruthless between justice, which is absolutely supposed to be blindfolded. So there is some sense of lack of mercy in the card of justice. With the Four of Pentacles, and ruthless may indicate, for example, the possibility that whatever we're trying to keep to ourselves so fiercely needs to necessarily be shared in order for consolidation not to become stagnation. In the Four of Pentacles, methodical with the Sun and the Page of Pentacles. As you can see, it works really, really well. It's not just because of the keywords of the narrative alchemy that can definitely resonate like an oracle, but it's also because there's so much resonances basically between the colors. The color palette between the two is really amazing, and I really love to make this kind of bridges, see them growing, being built in front of me, and just being, you know, the one that flips the cards and listens to the message and then tries my best to just relay the message back, because that's basically what a card reader is supposed to do. So I really, really like using these two together this way. If I want to add another layer to this reading, I actually look at the symbols. So in this case, for example, we've got the Two of Air, or you know, the Suit of Swords, and so we've got observation with the Suit of Swords. The Two of Swords for me is being stuck between a rock and a hard place and not necessarily knowing what the circumstances are, and that incapacitates you to take a decision. So observation is a moment of stillness, because there's not much you can do between the Eight of Cups and the Seven of Pentacles. And that is a great association, because in the Eight of Cups, you do have this kind of sense of movement in which you're moving on from a situation that feels like it's broken or it's got nowhere else to go. And it refers back to the suit of feelings, but also the Seven of Pentacles, which is reminding us that sometimes we really need to stop what we're doing to reassess the situation and decide whether the path that we've been taking is actually the one that we want to be on, and eventually reassess and decide what we want to do. So as you know, if you're following my channel for a while, you know that I absolutely love it when a tarot deck or an oracle deck give me an additional layer of interpretation, or they give me a possibility to use a deck in a different way or to enrich my practice. It's always very, very welcome. And I can assure you these two together are absolutely fantastic. It just so happens that they're both indie decks. However, I believe that the Tarot de Saint Croix is still available, and I even found one listing on Amazon US. However, because I'm not entirely sure that is a legitimate one, and there's unfortunately a lot of counterfeit decks also on Amazon, I will try and see if I can verify that before I put the link in the description box below. If you want to reach out, if you want to have the narrative alchemy, it's still available for printing on demand on the Make Playing Cards website. Another deck that I got from Make Playing Cards, which is in this absolutely gorgeous bag by the Tarot Bag Ladies. This is the Scapes Tarot, and it's, as I said, it's also from Make Playing Cards. I really love the bags, by the way. I don't know if I ever, I think I did show them. They're actually really kind of cool, and they are reversible. I mean, there is a bit of a difference in the cards, so these two leaves have a different, let's say, position. But I don't think there is going to be a massive concern. If you want to read reversal, I think you can still do that with these cards. So if you're not familiar with this deck, let me just zoom in. I do pair it with a lot of oracle decks. This is a tarot deck. However, for now, I just wanted to show you the cards because it is a photographic deck. It is really beautiful, very spot on when I look at the images, for example. And I have to say, there's a couple of decks that I found on Instagram recently, and one of them, it's not a photographic deck, but it's digital art based on photography. But I have to say, it's not, and this is just my opinion, please understand. but the images that have been chosen for the specific cards don't necessarily resonate for me. Whereas when I look at this deck, I mean, yes, of course, the Judgment card had to be the sun breaking out of the clouds, or the High Priestess had to be, for example, this cone of a volcano. This looks like Bali, by the way. I'm pretty sure it is, because there's rice plantations here. And volcanoes are, well, Bali, I think, has got something like 8 or 9 different volcanoes. Some of them are dormant, some of them are active, some of them are extinguished. I don't know what the word is. But it is so very spot on, I believe. And the Eight of Pentacles as well. You know, this is, if you've never seen a right terrace, like the ones that they have in Vietnam or in China, it takes so much work. It's crazy. It's crazy. It gives me a headache to just even look at this card and know that it refers back to doubling down on your work and really feeling like you have to keep on going. Or the Seven of Swords, for example, like we see here, there's traces in the snow, and obviously when you're down there, you don't necessarily know what's in front of you and how far your rescue is. But when you look at it from the above, you actually see the significance of keeping going. And so sometimes the Seven of Swords tells us about something that we do that we're not proud of, and we don't even know if what we're doing will be helping or not, but we kind of have to, because of the circumstances that we find ourselves in. Or the Lover's card, which is a lavender field in south of France. I mean, I'm assuming it's south of France because south of France is famous for the lavender fields. This is Machu Picchu. I've been there. It's absolutely gorgeous and fantastic. And so I'm actually appreciating, this is Bryce Canyon, I believe. With the hoods, I really appreciate this deck. First of all, because it does remind me of places I've been to in my travels, but it's also because, as I said before, there's a meaning to the cards. It's not just photographs and, and you just slam a title on it and that's it. I mean, look at the Two of Swords and the Three of Swords. It would seem like they're completely the same. I mean, not 100%, because obviously it's a different time of the day, and these are trees that have pretty much no leaves. These are evergreen trees, so they'll never be as skeletric as these ones. But the Two of Swords still gives you the idea that you can choose. You find yourself in a situation that it is dire, but you still have to move on, and yet you cannot. So there is this sense of being blocked by the circumstances. And the Three of Swords tells you that when you don't take a decision and you spend so much time in the Two of Swords, the results are not far ahead, and there will be desolation that follows. There will be that sense of being also having been waiting too long, and now not having the possibilities that you still had in the Two of Swords, even though they were not necessarily convincing to you. I do read numerologically though, so the Three of Swords for me does imply that sense of growth in the suit of the mind, but this is still something that I can apply to this card, because there is a presence and there's an absence, and we can really tell that by the use of the colors, which are very minimal. There's almost not just two colors, of course, there's a scale of gray in the sky, but it does suggest a very minimalist kind of approach. There is the sense of growth, but there is also the scarcity and that mentality, the austerity, the sense of urgency that we feel that is actually fueling our anxiety in the growth in the suit of the mind. So the Eight of Wands, the Nine of Wands, for example. The Nine of Wands, I've actually been here. This is the Antelope Canyon. It's one of the most beautiful places I've ever seen. Absolutely. And it is like this. I can assure you 100% this is not filtered. There's not even some tweaking in the saturation of the colors. This looks exactly like I've seen it in real life. However, it does also give you that sense of having to resist, being completely exhausted, and yet you're not there yet. You're not at the end of your troubles yet, and you still have to go on. And the flame that gave you the power at the beginning of your journey is almost extinguished, and yet you still have to go on. So as I said, this is a very beautiful deck. If you like photography, you will like this deck. The quality is the usual by Make Plain cards, so very easy to shuffle. You can use it. It's not an expensive deck. I mean, being a on-demand, printed on-demand deck, it could have been a lot more expensive. And of course, it's got the Northern Lights, and as you know, I absolutely love the Northern Lights. So if you want to know which decks I actually pair with this one, I used the Cecil Journeys Oracle cards by Pippa Beck, and this one has been released by Welbeck. This is the same publisher as the other 3 Oracle decks that are the Sky Wisdom, which is based on the alchemical element of air, the Earth Blessings Oracle cards based on Earth, obviously. This is based on water, and then there's another deck which is called the Dream Ritual Oracle cards, which is theoretically a dream interpretation oracle, but I do like to use it as a normal oracle deck. So I'm just going to show you very quickly how these two look together, because I really feel that even though they're both photography decks, and sometimes I actually like to vary a little bit because otherwise, you know, you have the same vibes. This is so very nice a pairing, and so very complete, especially when you use all of the other decks, so the earth and the air as well as the water. You have the possibility to do one of those alchemical spread. I think I posted a video a couple of months ago on how I use alchemy and alchemical energies in my spreads, and I was indeed using these decks, these oracle decks, not the tarot, because tarot I just got it at the beginning of April. So obviously we need to expect that sometimes we will have a very similar kind of photography, sometimes it will be completely different. And I think that will give us the motivation to either find bridges between these two decks, or perhaps, you know, understand that there's no communication for the time being. But I really like to use these two together. And I also like to use not just the keyword on the oracle, but also the messages at the bottom. So we got, for example, the 6 of Swords, 9 of Cups, and in the middle we got the keyword reflect. May you discern and distill. And that's something that we really need to have on our own side whenever we do embark upon that journey we do not necessarily want to do in the 6 of Swords. And all this, we need to understand that what we're doing right now, even though it feels painful, will necessarily contribute to an eventual success with the 9 of Cups. Without forgetting that we're not alone, and that we will need to naturally progress from the 9 of Cups into the 10 of Cups to celebrate and give back to the community. So the side with Judgment and the 4 of Cups, or love with the 5 of Swords and the Page of Pentacles, and let's see, just another one, persist with the Justice and the 10 of Cups. That's absolutely gorgeous. So these two, yes, it is photography decks, and I also like to pair them up with different decks. But I do believe that if you want to do that sort of alchemical energy kind of work, then these oracle decks are absolutely a must. I really hope that they're going to publish soon the fire deck, because that's the one that we've been missing. And then when they do that, we'll finally be able to do a really powerful alchemical spread. And the month of April has been very, very interesting, especially when it comes to Kickstarters, because Johanna Pola, she reached out to me. She's a creator. She reached out to me, and she asked me if I was interested in reviewing her new deck, the European Goddesses and Spirit Oracle, in my channel. And she's actually today, I'm going to post this video on the 1st of May, which is exactly exactly when the campaign will be launched on Kickstarter. So I did a video, I think I posted it last week, about the best Kickstarters of 2024 so far, because many of you have been asking me which ones did I back, which I think I liked too, or if there were problems with some of the campaigns. And I really believe that Kickstarter is becoming more and more accessible, if not affordable. That obviously depends on the decks and the creators themselves, and also the location of the printer is unfortunately very important, determining the prices that you will pay. But what I feel is that we've been presented with so many alternatives of decks to find on Kickstarter that now we really need to be probably more attentive and understand if these decks will resonate with us or not, because I've heard a lot of people complaining that there's almost a new deck every week. So that's why I posted from my point of view, what I believe are the best Kickstarters campaign for Tarot and Oracle decks for 2024 so far. Because if it's true that at any given day you have at least 25 new decks, or maybe not 25, but if you scroll on all of the decks that are presented on Kickstarter and Indiegogo, you probably get to 10 new decks at least every 4 or 5 days. So say maybe 15 decks a week, and that's a lot. That is a lot. And so there's some of us are super backers. I'm not. I've only overall within a couple of accounts, I've actually backed up to 45 decks. But that gives me the possibility to make a couple of reflections on the decks that I talked about on that video. And I was saying that Johanna's deck is a really beautiful deck, and I think personally that it ticks all the boxes. So this will be the back. This is the card that talks a little bit about the Kickstarter, what will be all the specifications that you can find. And also she sent me the companion book, which is absolutely gorgeous. I really, really love it, and I absolutely love working with it. I have been pairing this deck up with the Blood Moon Tarot, and I think that it's one of my favorite pairings of all times, because it's an absolute joy to see the cards actually having this kind of conversation with each other. Now, as I mentioned in that video, when I covered the campaign, I actually mentioned that Jana sent me the prototype of the deck. So if you want to know what the specification of the cardstock, the grammage and everything will be, I highly recommend you actually checking the campaign page, because obviously all of these will be available to you. Should you decide to back it, then you have all of the information available. I really appreciate the fact that Johanna specified she wanted to work on something she actually knows, and it's part of her own roots. So Johanna is from Germany, so hence the choice of specializing and focusing on European goddesses and spirits. It's not just goddesses, it's also spirits, because we see, for example, Baba Yaga and others that are not necessarily goddesses. I really, really appreciate this deck. It's not just beautiful because, it is aesthetically very pleasing, but it's also really powerful. And you can definitely feel that, not just from the choice of the goddesses and the characters that are in the cards, but also because there is a conscious choice on how to present these characters, in what moment of their story to best represent the keywords that they embody. And so Baruhenna, for example, she's presented as hunting, but she's also presented as incarnating or embodying the spirit of a wolf. And so, it does tell a story. And even though there are no keywords on the cards themselves, I can assure you that it is actually very easy to remember what the associations are. We got Freya. Who doesn't know Freya? I mean, obviously. But it's also very interesting because, you know, it makes you want to find out what the artist herself was thinking when choosing, for example, Artemis for something, or the Morrigan for something else, or Hel or Mokosh, and so on and so forth. As I was saying, she doesn't shy away from very intense cards, and I really do believe that whenever you do any kind of work related to divine feminine and goddesses, you also need this kind of strength. You need the blood, sweat, and tears and the fire, because it is part of humanity, it's part of who they represent. And I highly encourage it. So this is, as I was saying, this is going to launch on the 1st of May. So just, you know, as always, I will put the link to the Kickstarter campaign in the description box below for you to check it out yourself. But it is such a beautiful deck. And as I said, it pairs really well with the Blood Moon Tarot and other decks as well. But I'm going to show more pairings when I'm going to post another couple of videos. One, I wanted to show how I work with goddess energy, because it is, I feel that it's kind of different from what I've seen so far in other YouTube channels. And another one is going to be about my favorite pairings for the month of May. Moving on to something else. So with my Sunlight and Starlight members, we also wrapped up the session, the deck study of the Yokai Yochi Tarot, and we had a bit of a poll, and we just decided that the next deck we're going to study is going to be the Sacred Chi Tarot by Madeva Padma. She's also the creator of the Osho Zen Tarot and the Tao Oracle. This is a relatively recent deck, and it's been published mass market. You can find it on Amazon or your metaphysical store. It comes with a guidebook, and it looks very much like the guidebook of the Osho Zen. If you're familiar with that deck, it's got the same kind of landscape format. And it's a very interesting deck, I have to say. There's a few cards that make us pause, and I think that that's one of the reasons why my members wanted to go ahead and choose this one for our next deck study, because we all believe in how beautiful and strong and powerful the Osho Zen Tarot is. And while we still see the strength in the aesthetics, so in the art style of this deck, we also want to see whether, you know, all of the cards make sense or not. Because I think that many of us had the experience, the opportunity to actually approach tarot through the Osho Zen Tarot. And that taught us how to read tarot in a different way. So that was probably one of my very first non-RWS clones that I had in my collection. And that taught me so much, and I'm really appreciative of that. And I really want to see whether this deck holds up to that deck or not. Obviously, we have a renaming in the majors. We'll have renaming in the court cards as well. And we also do have keywords on the minors, and sometimes those keywords make sense, and other times we need to try and understand what the creator meant when she was choosing that particular keyword or not. Now, this deck is very beautiful. As I said, the images are very powerful. It is a joy to use it. However, on the other hand, I was trying to find a pairing for this deck, and until I just gave up and understood that sometimes a deck doesn't necessarily need to be paired up. I mean, I could probably try and use the Narrative Alchemy Tarot like I've done with the Tarot de Saint Croix, by using the Narrative Alchemy as an oracle deck and focus on those keywords, and also the relationship between the colors of the Narrative Alchemy and the colors of the bottom of the cards of the Sacred Chi. That could be an option. I'm pretty sure that could make it work. But on the other hand, when a deck presents itself with the opportunity to be read by itself, It's because it's got a very powerful message. And I think that I want to understand, at least to listen and try and understand this message first in order to be able to see if I indeed want to go ahead and perhaps use it for divination or just for meditation or introspection or any kind of other usage where I would want to pair it up with an oracle deck. I hope this all makes sense, but what we do, I generally do a lot of research when I present the deck study about, resources to books to read, even, I don't know, movies to watch or music to listen to. And it's always an open source in the sense that other members may contribute to how they want to use or analyze or study the deck. So it's always lots and lots of fun. But this is going to be the deck we're going to study, so the Sacred Sheet Tarot. And so another deck that came into my collection in the month of April is this cutie patootie. I have to say, it is probably one of the cutest decks that I've got in my collection. There is a guidebook and there are associations, but this is the cutest deck ever. It's just so cute because of all of the animals, and it's called Maxine Gatt's Zoologica, the Steampunk Oracle by Leela J. Williams, and it's published by Blue Angel. I have actually checked and I think that now it's available also in other regions, not just in Australia, because Blue Angel is Australian. So contrary to what Rockpool does, I actually published in Australia first. This is the guidebook, and I have to say, because I'm not necessarily super familiar with the keywords associated to the animals in the deck, I actually do have to look at the guidebook, but it's always fun. And you know me, you know that I always recommend having a look at the guidebook, because that's the only way in which you can actually understand the choices behind this. And this is so cute. Let me just zoom in because this is absolutely gorgeous. So we've got the wombat with propeller head. Sorry, I had to stifle a chuckle. Look closely at your creation and be satisfied. There is no trickery. The wombat is so cute. And even real life wombats, they're really solid and heavy, unless you find a puppy, but the adults are really heavy. Like you can, under the supervision of someone in a reserve, for example, or a conservation center, there is a possibility for you to carry one, to hug one. But they are solid. I know that this one looks tiny, but they're not tiny. But they are super cute. When they're upset though, they can actually hurt you. So always be careful. So it tells you not to be, not to rest on your victories and not to necessarily think that your work is done just because you got to a certain point and it looks done. There might be some kind of additional layer that you need to apply to your work, and you need to dig in, and you need to kind of become stubborn in order to be able to go ahead and reach what for you is success. So this is very interesting because I wouldn't have known what to associate a wombat with, for example, or a tortoise for that matter, or a koala, or a 9-banded armadillo, which, it's a very unique kind of animal. So as you can see, it's a really cute deck. It's a circular deck. If you have watched my channel for a while, you will know that I'm not always comfortable with circular decks, and that still stands. I would have really preferred to have a rectangular deck, but that is just because I find it hard to handle the cards. There's nothing in the back that tells well, there is this one that seems to be telling us what is up, and that it does correspond to the number. So I guess that's already a step up from other decks that don't necessarily have anything on the back. This is the wombat. I mean, come on, isn't it the cutest thing you've ever seen? It is so cute. And all of the other animals, I mean, you may or may not like, the Dumbo octopus, but look at the meerkat. And sorry, I'm kidding. How cute is this Dumbo octopus? It's just so cute. or perhaps the long-eared owl, or the oranda goldfish, the shoebill stork. This is not necessarily cute, but it is interesting. So as you can see, it is all based on steampunk art style, and it is based on animal. So there is this really kind of weird but whimsical but interesting combination between the two. And I have to say that when you use the guidebook as well and you read it and you associate the keywords with the animals, it all makes sense. And look at this koala. I mean, come on. Isn't it so sweet, so cute? Koalas, actually, you can hold them, but there's only in conservation centers and only under the supervision of, someone there. I've held a couple of koalas in my life. I ended up being scratched all over because they thought I was a tree trunk, and so they were just really grabbing my skin. But it is very cute, so that was fine. A galago, a pufferfish, and a campeta bee. So this is, as I said, it's not just a cute deck. I think that it's got a lot that can actually be explored, while looking at the guidebook. And something else that I'm doing with my members, we're doing so many things. I started the membership in December. It was just one or two, maybe one video, maybe two video a week. And now it's constantly 2 to 3 videos every week because we do so many projects together, and it's lots and lots of fun, but it's a lot of work for me as well. But anyway, if you want to join the membership, you're more than welcome. And if you want to send me questions about it, I'm always open to explaining what we do. Because there's no other way. Obviously, it's easier to show, so you can actually join the membership and have a look, and then it's very affordable. I have 3 tiers. The first tier is just a supporting tier. The second tier is called the Sunlight Members, and it's at about $15 Australian per month. So it's about 9.5 or 10 US dollars a month. And the Starlight tiers, which is where we're actually doing some very serious and healing kind of work together, very personalized. That comes at a $19, so $20 Australian per month, which is about 12, I would say 13 US dollars per month. So as you can see, it's very affordable. So this is the deck and walk, what we're doing. I'm actually personalizing every single decan with a specific spread, and then we're going to have a look at it. This is my deck and walk journal, which is actually kind of huge, but anyway. And we talk about all the astrological references. We talk about the spreads that I'm doing. We talk about the cards, the relationship between the minor and the majors, and the astrological references between the cards. We have really good conversations about the points of what I call the points of convergence and the points of divergence between the astrological ways of reading a tarot card and your typical RWS or Thoth way to read a card. Sometimes, as I said, it's very didascalic, sometimes it's not, and so it's also very interesting to understand what we're doing. So yeah, we're already in Taurus 2. I have to say I'm so very pleased I'm not being in Taurus 1 anymore, because that 5 of Pentacles was just absolutely terrible, especially when you combine the 5 of Pentacles with the last days of Mercury Retrograde. It was just a disaster. And then last but not least, I started showing you my journal with a lot of trepidation, but you've been so nice to me. I have to say thank you so much to all of you that commented that I am not terrible, in the sense that I believe that there's, I just doodle. It's nothing artistic at all, but it does come from the heart. And so I was always hesitating in showing you my diary, my journals, because I always cringe when I see what I do. But then again, I received so many supportive and encouraging comments that I thought, you know what, it is what it is. I'm not going to become, at my age, I'm not going to become an artist. So what I do is what I feel like doing. And so this is my journal for April. By the way, this is by Taroko Design, unfortunately, which is a Tomoe Riva 68 grams. So it's a fantastic paper that has got that crinkling sound of Tomoe River, but at the same time is good enough for you to use the washing method with fountain pen inks on a page, and it doesn't actually pass through. It doesn't have any ghosting, or it doesn't have any feathering, as you can see, and no bleeding either. So this is my traveler's notebook in olive green. And even though I have been using it for a while, I mean, I don't know why there's no scratches on it. I see everyone else's traveler's notebook is full of scratches. Mine is almost pristine, but I don't know. So as I was saying, Taroko design with Tomoe River paper. Unfortunately, they were the last two. I don't know whether Taroko design will ever produce any other traveler notebook size Tomoe River notebooks. It would be a very sad day if they don't, but it is what it is. So this is my month of April. I also do, because I use fountain pens, and I try and select different inks per fountain pen. So I start the month with a list of all of the inks associated to which pen, and then I see if I can actually get through the whole month with those pens, or if I need to change inks. And these are all of my thoughts. You know, I write in Italian, so I feel less exposed in a way, because I don't know, if you have you ever tried to show your journal to someone? It feels like you're showing your naked skin, and somehow it's very difficult, but somehow I also understand that it's also liberating, or at least, you know, it brings about the opportunity to share a couple of topics that are very important for me. And so I, as I said, appreciate everyone's commenting and saying, no, you're not terrible, you're okay. So this is, yeah, the things that happen, you know, in my life in the month of April, the decks that I've been using, the days in which I thought, okay, I'm going to take a break. This is a mental health day, and I ended up being more busy than usual. I always do a daily pull, so I tend to mark down what the cards are. At the beginning, I also used to take photos with my Fuji Instax, but now I found out that it's so expensive to buy the actual paper, how do you call it, to print on, that I just decided to keep it from my Deccan diary. And so this was the day in which we did the wrap-up of the Japan Supernatural with the Suto coins, and we talked about all of the decks, the Yokai Yochi, Taraki Yokai, Oracle de Kami Yokai, Yokai Tarot de Vecchi, and the Floating World Tarot, and we looked at all of the books that we used, and so on and so forth. So that it's been a very busy, very tough month because of all of these coincidences, but also because there were so many things that were outside of my control, and I tend to have not a controlling personality per se, but at least I tend to want to be aware of what outcomes can be and prepare for plan B or even plan C, in order to be able to find myself not surprised and not, you know, suffering from that. But there were just too many things spiraling out of control. And at a certain point, I remember I was doing one of the readings for the energies of the week for my members, and one of the cards was literally saying, just let it go. Just let it go. And I was like, okay, well, that's a sign for me to just let it go, because I just wasn't able to keep things under control anymore. But that was it for my month of April, and I'll be very curious. These kind of wrap-up videos are what I really, really love, and I love to watch in other channels as well, because I love to see what other tarot tubers are up to in their practice. And I hope you've enjoyed as well. As I said, if you have any questions regarding my membership, shoot me an email. I'm always there. But for now, have a great day.